In the middle of the North Atlantic lies a tiny island almost swallowed by the ocean. No rivers, no freshwater lakes, no oil or precious minerals, just limestone, fierce storms, and more than 60,000 people who still call this place home. And yet Bermuda ranks among the wealthiest territories in the world. Behind the pink beaches and peaceful white rooftops lie companies managing billions of dollars alongside a cost of living so high that many can only dream of it. But how did an island with almost no natural resources become so prosperous? Where do its people get their drinking water? And what has allowed them to survive on this lonely rock in the middle of the ocean for more than 4 centuries? The answer doesn't lie underground. It lies on those white rooftops in ships crossing the sea, and in the way Bermudians have turned their harshest limitations into opportunities. Before we begin, let us know which country you're watching from and what time it is where you live. And now let's step onto Bermuda, an island with no natural freshwater, yet home to one of the most remarkable stories of survival and prosperity on the planet. Part 1. A lonely island in the ocean. Many people still think Bermuda sits somewhere in the Caribbean, but the truth is completely different. This is a British overseas territory, standing almost entirely alone in the North Atlantic. Bermuda is made up of about 7 main islands, along with more than 100 smaller ones, yet its total land area is only around 54 square kilometers. On a map, it looks like a tiny dot lost in the open sea. The nearest coastline is Cape Hatteras in the United States, about 500 kilometers to the west. Head east instead, and you'd have to cross more than 800 kilometers of ocean before reaching Morocco. No landmass to shelter it. No neighboring country, just strong winds, heavy swells, and storms that can strike from any direction. That isolation once made Bermuda the stuff of nightmares for early sailors. In 1609, the English ship Sea Venture was caught in a violent storm and wrecked on the reefs surrounding the island. The survivors stepped onto a land that was almost entirely empty. No rivers, no lakes, and no stable natural source of fresh water. They had no idea that this shipwreck would mark the beginning of more than 4 centuries of human settlement on Bermuda. But one big question remains: how did such a small island come to exist in the middle of the ocean at all? The answer lies thousands of meters beneath the water's surface, where Bermuda was once the peak of a massive underwater volcano. Part 2. The volcano that became a paradise. Bermuda wasn't born from white sand. Beneath its peaceful beauty lies an ancient volcano rising more than 4,000 meters from the floor of the Atlantic Ocean. After millions of years, the volcano went dormant. Ocean waves wore down its peak, while coral shells and sea sand gradually built up on the surface, forming the limestone that people live on today. In a sense, Bermuda is the last surviving summit of a vast world that sank beneath the sea. But that limestone is highly porous. Rainwater barely touches the ground before sinking deep below the surface, which is why no rivers or freshwater lakes have ever formed here. A paradise shaped by the ocean, yet lacking the one thing people need most to survive. And to live here, Bermudians had no choice but to turn every rooftop into a giant water-catching trap. Part 3. Rooftops that drink rainwater. In Bermuda, a roof isn't just there to keep the rain out. It's what keeps an entire family alive. The white tiled roofs are built in stepped layers, channeling rainwater through filtering gutters and down into a tank located beneath each house. The white color reflects sunlight and helps keep the roof cleaner. And notably, collecting rainwater isn't optional. It's a legal requirement when building a home. That makes every rainfall a kind of gift. But when the dry season stretches on, the water in those tanks slowly runs low. People have to ration every load of laundry, every tap they turn on, or pay for a water truck to make a delivery. On an island surrounded entirely by the sea, fresh water turns out to be more precious than almost anything else. And this isn't even Bermuda's biggest paradox. This water-scarce island also has one of the most expensive costs of living in the world. Part 4. A paradise with a very high price. Bermuda looks like something straight off a postcard, but living inside that postcard comes at a steep cost. Land is scarce, arable soil is limited, and most goods have to be shipped in from elsewhere. From food and fuel to construction materials, everything gets more expensive after the journey across the ocean. Even an ordinary house can end up worth millions of dollars. Rent, utilities, and basic necessities all put enormous pressure on everyday life. Incomes in Bermuda rank among the highest in the world, but the cost of living eats up most of that money just as fast. Wealth seems to be everywhere here, from the yachts docked in the harbor to the polished offices of financial firms. But behind that glossy image lies a harder truth. Not everyone living in Bermuda actually feels wealthy. So how did an island with almost no natural resources manage to build such enormous wealth? The answer lies in an invisible industry, one where Bermuda sells something the entire world constantly needs protection against risk. Part 5. The island that sells safety to the world. Bermuda has no oil, no massive factories. What this island sells is protection against disasters that haven't happened yet. Bermuda has become one of the world's major hubs for insurance and reinsurance. When a storm devastates a city, a cargo ship meets disaster, or a business faces catastrophic losses, companies based here can stand behind the scenes, helping to share the risk. A favorable legal environment, political stability, and proximity to the U.S. market have drawn in a wave of international financial firms. Massive amounts of capital have flowed in. Office towers rose along the harbor, and an island of just 54 square kilometers began wielding influence far beyond its size. Bermuda doesn't extract resources from the ground. It makes its money from the world's anxiety. But that wealth has also created a different Bermuda one, where local residents must compete for every house, every job, and every square meter of land against a global class of the wealthy. Part 6. Two worlds. On one island, Bermuda is wealthy, but that wealth doesn't belong to everyone. On one side are international professionals earning high salaries, ocean view villas, and yachts crowding the harbor. On the other are local families struggling with rent, groceries, and bills that keep climbing. Land is scarce. Housing is even scarcer. Every apartment becomes a battle to win, and home ownership drifts further out of reach for young people. Here lies the paradox. They live in one of the wealthiest places on Earth, yet sometimes can't afford to stay in their own homeland. And with land now more precious than gold, Bermuda has been forced to tightly control something else entirely: who is allowed to set foot here, and who gets to stay for good. Part 7. Where money alone doesn't buy you a place to stay. Bermuda welcomes tourists, but becoming a resident is an entirely different story. Land is scarce and housing is limited, so residency and work rights are tightly controlled. Most foreigners need a work permit typically tied to a specific job and only valid for a limited time. Even wealthy newcomers can't simply buy whichever house they want. Property available to non-Bermudians is restricted, and prices for it usually run far beyond what most people can afford. These rules help shield this small territory from outside pressure. But they also mean Bermudian society carries an invisible divide between those born there and those who come only to work for a few years. Here, a passport can determine where you're allowed to live, what job you're allowed to do, and whether this island ever truly becomes home. But Bermuda hasn't only been shaped by those who arrived later. Behind today's wealth lies a painful past, one where generations of people were brought here with no choice of their own. Part 8. A past that cannot be buried. Bermuda today feels peaceful, but the island's history holds more than just pink beaches. Starting in the 17th century, many Africans and indigenous Americans were brought here in slavery. They built homes, built ships, worked the land, and helped lay the very foundations of Bermuda, yet had almost no say over their own fate. Slavery wasn't abolished in Bermuda until 1834, but freedom on paper didn't bring equality overnight. Barriers tied to race, employment, and power persisted for generations afterward. Today, the influence of Bermuda's black community runs deep through the island's music, food, and cultural identity. Bermuda's wealth wasn't built on money alone. This place was also shaped by labor endurance and the longing for freedom of people history once denied a voice. And there's one place that still holds on to that memory more vividly than anywhere else. The old town that witnessed Bermuda's earliest days. Part 9. St. George's, where time stood still. On Bermuda's eastern side, St. George's still holds the shape of the island as it looked more than 4 centuries ago. Narrow streets, white rooftops, and limestone buildings make this place feel like a living page of history. Founded in 1612, St. George's is one of the oldest English settlements in the New World and is now recognized as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. But behind its old world charm lie stories that were far from peaceful. This was once a place of trials, punishment, and control governed by harsh laws. The coastal forts still standing here are reminders that Bermuda once lived under the constant fear of attack from the sea. Today, the cannons have gone silent. Tourists stroll leisurely through the old town squares while the waves continue to crash against stone walls that have stood for hundreds of years. But leave St. George's and look out to sea, and Bermuda takes on a far more mysterious name, the Bermuda Triangle. Part 10. The Bermuda Triangle. A legend bigger than the truth. Just mention Bermuda, and many people immediately think of ships vanishing and planes that never came back. But the Bermuda Triangle isn't a sea region with any official boundary. Most of its mysterious reputation only took off after 20th century books and media blew the stories out of proportion. This was actually a busy shipping route, one that regularly saw major storms, strong ocean currents, and sudden shifts in weather. Many disappearances can be explained by human error or harsh natural conditions. There's no reliable evidence that ships vanish here any more often than in other busy waters around the world. Perhaps the greatest mystery of the Bermuda Triangle is simply how a legend convinced the entire world that this place swallows people whole. But beneath those waters lies a danger that is entirely real: coral reefs that have torn apart hundreds of ships, turning the seabed around Bermuda into a vast graveyard. Part 11. A shipwreck. Graveyard beneath blue waters. Bermuda's waters are so beautiful that it's easy to forget they were once a sailor's worst nightmare. Surrounding the island are sharp coral reefs, hidden just beneath the clear blue surface. A single small error in course could tear a ship's hull apart before its crew even caught sight of land. Over the centuries, hundreds of ships sank around Bermuda, making its waters one of the densest shipwreck sites in the entire Atlantic. Today, the very wrecks that once spread terror have become popular diving spots. Tropical fish swim through old cannons, coral has grown over the ship's hulls, and cold metal slowly merges back into the ocean. In Bermuda, the sea doesn't erase history. It keeps history at the bottom of the deep. But that same dangerous ocean also gave Bermuda a gentler symbol, beaches with a rare pink hue found almost nowhere else in the world. Part 12. Pink sand born from the ocean. Bermuda doesn't have endless stretches of beach, but it has something the world remembers all the same: pink sand. That distinctive color comes from tiny marine organisms with reddish-pink shells. When they die, waves grind their shells into fine fragments, which mix with coral and white sand to create the soft pink hue running along the shoreline. The most famous stretch is Horseshoe Bay, where turquoise water wraps around a beach curved like a horseshoe, but that beauty is fragile. Major storms, rising sea levels, and erosion are gradually reshaping the coastline. What the ocean once created, the ocean can just as easily take back. And because of that, life in Bermuda is always a kind of tug-of-war. People enjoy the sea's beauty, while constantly preparing for the day it turns against them. Part 13. When paradise braces for a storm. In Bermuda, people don't wait for the sky to turn black before they start preparing. When storm season arrives, windows get reinforced, boats are pulled ashore, water tanks are checked, and every household begins stocking up on essentials. The limestone houses with their low roofs and thick walls aren't just about looks. They're built to withstand the fierce winds sweeping in off the Atlantic. But no structure is truly invincible. Within just a few hours, a storm can knock out power, tear up roads, and cut the island off from the rest of the world. And yet, Bermudians stay. After every storm, they clear away broken branches, repair roof after roof, and rebuild their lives from whatever's left standing. Perhaps Bermuda's greatest strength doesn't lie in its stone walls at all. It lies in the way more than 60,000 people have learned to live calmly beside an ocean that's never truly gentle. And that spirit is what gives the island its own distinct rhythm of life, unhurried, close-knit, and deeply grateful for every peaceful day. Part 14. The rhythm of life called Bermuda. Life in Bermuda doesn't move at the same pace as the financial centers it serves. In the mornings, people head to work past pastel-colored houses. By evening, the harbor fills with chatter music and the smell of grilled fish. The island's small size means everyone tends to know one another. A greeting. A wave, a few minutes spent catching up, these have simply become part of everyday life. Cricket remains a great source of pride. During cup match season, the whole island seems to slow down, coming together to eat, cheer, and share the joy like one big family. But beneath that relaxed surface lies the resilience of people who have learned to live alongside scarcity, isolation, and storms. They understand that on a small island in the middle of the ocean, no one can survive alone. Bermuda may be famous for its pink sand, its white rooftops, or the legend surrounding its mysterious waters. But what has kept this island standing for more than 4 centuries is its people. And perhaps that is Bermuda's most precious treasure of all. Bermuda has no rivers, no freshwater lakes, no oil, no minerals, no sprawling farmland. It's just a small patch of land in the middle of the Atlantic where people have always had to live alongside storms, isolation, and limits that once seemed impossible to overcome. But Bermuda never let nature decide its fate. It turned rooftops into water reservoirs, turned isolation into a global financial hub, turned shipwrecks on the ocean floor into pieces of living history, and turned hardship into resilience. Behind the pink beaches and pastel-colored houses lies more than just a resort paradise. It's the story of more than 60,000 people who learned to survive on a land with almost nothing, and in doing so, made the whole world take notice. Perhaps Bermuda isn't wealthy because of what nature gave it. This island is wealthy because of how its people have come to value every drop of water, every square meter of land, and every peaceful day in the middle of the ocean. And that's the takeaway Bermuda leaves us with after this journey. Sometimes the place with the least knows best how to create something extraordinary. If you had the choice, would you want to live in Bermuda, a beautiful, wealthy, yet expensive and isolated paradise in the middle of the ocean? Leave your answer in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and join us on our next journey as we explore more of the world's most extraordinary places.